Be a nice piece.
Be a very nice piece if you can get rid of Jeremy Grant. All right, I think we're live. I'm just gonna roll it. I've been sipping some whiskey. I've been sipping some of this Jack Daniel's Tennessee Apple actually. Mm.
That fancy JD.
It tastes like ass. It's just way too sweet. I should have got regular Jack Daniels. But all right, we're here. Damon, let me know when we're good. But I think
We
we're good.
are all good.
All right, so what's going on, everyone? Winter Hill Warriors are here. I'm Chenny Britt, my boy Damon. We're here
Yo,
to cover The Boys season 4, episode 5. I believe it's called "Beware of the Jabberwock, My Son," and we're just gonna get right into it. All right, no time to waste. We're gonna get right into it. NBA free agency is open, so I gotta get back on Twitter after this. We gotta cover House of the Dragon later, so we're gonna fly right into it. We ended last episode, I believe, with Huey's dad being injected with the V, right? And then on top of that, Homelander and Ryan are doing their thing, and that's kind of it. So we open up this scene or this episode with basically just normal Vought propaganda where they're kind of just previewing their next phases. It's basically just a play on Marvel. Also, side note, let us know in the chat if you're having audio issues, but I think we should be all good. But please let us know in the chat. But yeah, so we open up and we're kind of just getting the like Vought's kind of throwing a little like fan service type of event. They're promoting a new movie that A Train's starring in, and they're just kind of highlighting the new phase of Vought movies. And in this, we kind of see, or it's the Vought Expo, right? It's like the VX Expo, and in this, we actually see the Deep and the Vought News Network announcer Cameron Coleman. They're on stage, but the Deep is actually pissed at Coleman because Coleman has actually been reporting on the Deep being fired as head of crime analytics. So he's like, "Yo, you're making me look bad. Why are you doing that?" Meanwhile, Homelander is still having PTSD from his childhood, and he's not happy. And Sister Sage is kind of like trying to fuck with him a bit and just being like, "Hey, why are you so grumpy?" And he's not even responding to her at all. She's got to be a little bit careful with fucking around with Homelander because he could just fucking snap and laser her in half. But maybe he'd be doing her a favor. But Homelander's just in his own head right now, and Sister Sage is like, "Ooh, this is kind of weird." So we get back to the Deep and Coleman. You know, the Deep is pissed about Coleman, and we will cover that a little bit later. But now we get to Huey. As mentioned earlier, we ended episode 4 with Huey's dad, being saved for the time being, right? He's saved for the time being, and they've injected him with the V. And he's like, "Man, I feel great. I feel fantastic." Basically, what happened was Huey's mom didn't steal the V from his pocket, but it fell out of his pocket, right, Damon? It fell out of his
yeah.
pocket, and then she just fucking injected him with it. So for now, they've saved his life. And he's like in a really good mood. Everything seems all well. And then I think this is the part where he kind of forgets, or no, he didn't. Oh, okay, yeah. So this is the part where Huey's like, "What the fuck happened?" Like him and his mom talk privately, and he's like, "Did you give him the V?" And she's like, "Yeah, I thought you wanted me to." So everything seems good for now. Let me see. Let me keep going. All right, let's pause. Well, yeah. So he was like, "All right, I guess my dad's alive." Then we get to the uh, the boys HQ where basically Firecracker has such an upper hand on Starlight now. First of all, Starlight beat the fuck out of her on live, so it's making Starlight look like a maniac. On top of that, Firecracker has just dropped information on Starlight getting an abortion. Best episode so far. Definitely, we got a comment from Classic COD. That's literally what Damon texted me right before I watched the episode. He was like, "Best episode." Quick thoughts on that. Quick thoughts on that, Damon. Just why you thought this was the best episode. We're gonna cover more stuff, but
There's just a ton going on to this one. Like to start off with the whole title, like once I saw that, you know it's going to be real. This is based on a poem by Lewis Carroll, the dude who wrote Alice in Wonderland. Basically, the heavy themes in the poem are like good versus evil and like beware of like this evil presence. So there's so many characters pushed to such severe lengths so that it's really hard to tell who's good, who's evil. Everybody's making crazy moves. We love to see the dynamic and how it shifted with the seven, like they're turning on each other slowly. Then you flash back to the boys, and like Butcher is not as solid as we once thought he was. And we're going to talk more about some theories related to that too.
Mm,
Plus, you get Edgar back in the fold. Like, man, I love seeing Edgar come back, but we'll touch more on that in a little bit.
yeah. So Starlight is like, fuck, I'm losing this PR battle. And Firecracker says, I'm coming for all Starlight supporters, and on top of that, I'm gonna press charges. So Starlight's kind of fucked, to be totally honest. But yeah, so her entire foundation, it's a wreck now at this point. You know, a lot of graffiti, all that stuff. It seems like she doesn't really have much of a team anymore other than the boys. So meanwhile, is he's struggling to co-parent his daughter. She's been acting up way more now that Todd has died, and she's getting into fights at school. And is it Monica? Is it Monica or Monique? His wife's name, or not wife, his ex's name.
I think it's Monique.
Monique. Okay, so Monique's basically just like, you need to fucking fix this. And gets a bad rap, man. Like, I think he's a great dad, but you know he's fighting for justice. So whatever. MM's got to basically make sure his daughter doesn't go off the deep end, and this is a very pivotal time for his family. But I'm happy that Todd is dead. This is when it starts heating up, right? This is when Butcher is meeting with motherfucking Kessler, and Kessler's like, yeah, I wanted someplace more private. I was thinking about your mom's pussy, but I want someplace more private, which is insane. But so basically, this is when Kessler tells Butcher about the virus that they were making at Godalkin, right? Like, Butcher didn't find out solo. Like, a lot of that happens off screen, right?
Yeah, they did it off screen, and then they even connect into what happened in Gen V. I guess what happened in the Gen V finale after the credits, they're sort of just pretending happened within this season of him exploring solo.
Yep. And this is right around the timeline when Gen V ends. So basically, Butcher knows about the virus that's being cooked at Godalkin. The virus is supposed to be anti-soup, so it binds to the compound V in your bloodstream, and it kills you. So it's completely fine for normal people. And Kessler's basically like, yeah, your entire team fucking sucks. Frenchie's on drugs. Huey's a pussy. But Butcher's like, dude, Kimiko is pretty elite though. Either way, I think Kessler's like tells Butcher, you gotta go basically steal the virus, right? Like, the virus is getting cooked up by Newman. You gotta find a way to steal it. Stan Edgar clearly knows about it. This is the way we can defeat the Soups. So a lot of stuff does happen off screen, which can get a little bit confusing, but you can't ever try to take the boys too seriously as a show. Then we still got the Frenchie Colin storyline, where Frenchie hasn't told anyone about why he and Colin just aren't together anymore. You know, everyone's kind of worried about it, but whatever. And Butcher comes back in, and he's like, why is everyone so fucking sad and shit like that? And Starlight's like, you know, my publicity's done, blah, 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 blah. Butcher's just like, whatever, I don't care about this anymore. So then does ask an interesting question. He's like, how'd you kill Ezekiel? And Butcher's like, I really don't know. I have no idea. But Butcher tells him, look, I got the answer. And he tells them all about the virus that has been getting cooked up at Godalkin, and it's a virus that kills Soups. Now, obviously, within the boys, you got Starlight, who's a Soup, and Kimiko, who's a Soup. So that's very dangerous to them, and you know their lives are going to be in danger. So, you know, a lot of conflict is going to be created for this. But basically, Butcher's like, we got to go steal it. The problem is Newman has it, so it's going to be very, very dangerous. And the way they're going to steal it is to first get through Stan Edgar. So let me just take a break there.
Yeah, the way that Butcher glosses over how he mysteriously killed Ezekiel and then just goes right into the plan, like he looks and sounds like a mad scientist in this scene. Some of the stuff that he says is really out of pocket too. Like he pretty much just drops the C word on Starlight, but then tells her she doesn't have like the actual depth to be called that, which was pretty heinous. So he's definitely on a warpath this episode. If we wind it back to the V52 Expo towards the beginning, some of the Vought stuff that they come up with here, like over time, we know the dude who founded Vought was a Nazi. He was basically like the chief experimenter of the Nazis back in the day when the war first started. Then he came to America once the tide turned. You see the Fu Manchu propaganda villainizing Asians, anti-communist propaganda. This big chief Apache don't litter Kimosabi, like that's so messed up. And it's a parody of that old anti-littering PSA where they show the indigenous guy who is like crying as the trash is being littered and stuff.
Yeah.
Turns out that actor's not even indigenous. He was Sicilian and he was just pretending to be.
What?
Dude, I've read an article on it earlier. It's like he just like was going around saying he was Cherokee, but he was actually Sicilian. That's
Get the
what they
fuck
say.
out of here. That's crazy.
So like that's what they're parodying with this. We know Homelander's not going to be right if ever after what happened last episode. But then the contrast with the humor on the screen with Homelander losing his mind was pretty hilarious. Like phases 7 through 19, Clear Jab and Marvel. Some of these legit do sound like a Disney Plus series if Disney got their hands on the VOD IP. Like Firecracker, God Help Me, The Deep, Gods and Dolphins, Black Noir, Back to Hanoi 3. Like, I hope he hasn't been back 3 times. Or I hope it was just Black Noir 3, Back to Hanoi, and not Back to Hanoi for the 3rd time. Then A Train Off the Tracks. Like, man, I wish I could see some rough cuts of some of these. It was kind of noted that Homelander is the only high-level hero to appear in multiple self-titled films. So that speaks to his residual ego that he's trying to leave behind here. Huey's dad, yeah, you cover that pretty well. He's feeling alive and nice, but we're still waiting to see what kind of power emerges. Starlight, she took the wrong bait. The biblical war that Firecracker's framing up is not promising, declaring hunting on Starlighters. This is where you get the January 6th vibes, like the anti-counter protester like violence. So hopefully that doesn't get too rough, but I think we can see where that's going. You covered that pretty well. Butcher and Kessler. All right. Do you want to go into the theory now or wait till the end?
Let's wait till the end because I just want to make sure we've been doing really long streams, so let's wait till the end because like that'll be a good discussion point.
Yeah, we can save that till later on.
All right.
The boys' headquarters. Yeah, that's it. We're all good.
Damon has an interesting theory on Butcher and Kessler. But all right, so Butcher's basically like, yeah, like we got to go find a way to get this compound V, but Newman got to it before I did, so we're gonna need to figure something else out. And he wants them to get a presidential pardon. Now remember, is in with Mallory and the president-elect Singer, so they can get that presidential pardon, and they're going to end up using it for Stan Edgar. Give me a second. Classic COD comments, I feel Butcher will kill Homelander by doing the same thing, but I don't know, or they'll both die. I also think A-Train will kill the smart one too, but don't reply if you're going to say this later. That's actually an interesting point, but that's not what Damon's theory is on. Damon's theory is on something that's relating purely to just Butcher and himself, right?
Yeah, I like those thoughts though. Those points are good points. A-Train's gonna have to do something about that, and we'll get into that later on too.
Yeah. All right, so we quickly cover. All right, so this part's interesting because during the expo, Sage is the smartest person in the world, so she knows that A-Train was the fucking snitch. So A-Train knows that Sage is onto him. Now, Sage could fuck him over hardcore right now, but she doesn't in this episode, which to me I thought was interesting. She doesn't fuck him over even though she could. Anyways, now we get back to our man, fucking Stan Edgar. Giancarlo Esposito, I think that's his name. He was also in the recent Netflix show, The Gentleman. Such an elite fucking actor, just commands presence, just like is the man. But they find him, and immediately he steals the show. They get him the pardon, but the deal is they'll let you out of jail if you can get us to the virus. So they end up having this unlikely alliance. And on top of that, well, at first, actually, I should say that Stan Edgar isn't down to help them. He doesn't really care. But then when they mentioned that Victoria Newman fucking injected Zoe with the virus, that gets him to care because he deeply cares about Zoe as well. So then that's the only reason he pulls up. Like it seemed like he was down to just kind of die in jail. But yeah, that's what gets Stan Edgar to come out. And goddamn, look at this man, full of style. The second he walks out, I'm not gonna lie, Damon. My style's fucking trash. I could learn a thing or two from Stan Edgar, but I just don't know if I have the chops to carry this type of shit, I'm just
throwing those shades on outside too.
Shades on outside, a nice pea coat, 3-piece suit. I mean, I'm just a sweatpants fucking sipping Jack Daniels straight from the bottle type of guy, we're not all polished.
No, and that means that that was the outfit that he had waiting for him when he went into jail. Like that was
Yeah,
his I'm
yeah.
getting out of jail outfit.
Yeah, like if I was getting out of jail, the first outfit I would want is just like the most comfortable shit. But this is a man who knows that you got to dress to impress, and immediately he just starts throwing jabs at everyone. He's like, "Starlight, you're lame." And
Your van's dirty.
yeah, exactly. So they're like, he basically says he has a safe house. Like he has a bunch of different safe houses because he was a he was an exec at Vought, running Vought basically. So he's got safe houses where a bunch of shit's going down. He's like, let's just go hit these safe houses one by one to see if we can find some information, right? Like anything to get to the virus. All right, we get back. This is the first time where we kind of see that something is wrong with Huey's dad. Like injecting him with the compound V wasn't enough to just save him without some sort of catch. So it's all kumbaya. The family's kind of reunited. Huey, his mom Daphne, Huey's dad. They're just talking about like, oh, I always wanted to go to Paris. Blah blah blah. Daphne, Huey's recently returned mother, actually gives her engagement ring that she had to Huey and is like, propose to Andy, lock that shit down. That's probably the best that you can do. She's not wrong. She's not wrong. Then she leaves to go to the bathroom, I think. And when she leaves to go to the bathroom, like we get this kind of moment. I'm trying to find it right now. Leaves to go to the bathroom, and Huey and his dad have this private moment. And Huey's just like, why did you put her, like, why did you give her power of attorney? I'm your fucking son. And Huey's dad's just basically like, you're kind of a bitch, Huey. Like, you're too nice of a guy. You wouldn't have been able to pull the trigger on me. And I don't want to just like be like our cat or whatever. Was it the cat Jar Jar or someone
Yeah.
who basically just like they needed to be put down, but Huey wasn't willing to do it. And because of that, the cat just like suffered way more. Huey's dad's like, I needed someone more ruthless, so I gave it to, your mom. And it makes a lot of sense that Huey's like, that's fair. But then he kind of has this moment where he kind of forgets what's going on, where he's like, hey, where'd your mom go? And Huey's like, dude, she just told you that she's going to the bathroom. And Huey's dad's like, oh, yeah, you're right. So weird memory stuff going on there. That's a bit concerning. You knew the second that popped up that this wasn't going to be great. Then we get to this little like farmhouse. Seems like it's probably in like Western New York or upstate New York, but this is like a little safe house that that our man Stan Edgar had. And when they first pull up, they notice that there's already been some signs of like struggle. I think that window is broken, and so now they're all on alert. And they pull up, and they see blood everywhere. Obviously, not a good sign. They go down to the basement where experiments were being run. So this is some shit that was probably going off the books at Vought, I would say. And as they pull up, I think Newman ends up ambushing them, right? I think it happens in this scene.
Yeah.
Let me just keep scrolling forward. I don't want to get hit by copyright. But they're seeing like they're testing on animals. So there's like they're injecting animals with compound V right now. So it's already looking very, very dangerous. And then that's when Newman pulls up and she's like, I was gonna get word as soon as Stan Edgar got released. She had Bluetooth tracking on his ankle monitor. So it was really easy for her to ambush them. And she pulls up, and at first it looks dangerous, but at the end of the day, Stan Edgar, man, that man knows how to talk. He knows how to like manipulate situations with his words, and he basically just tells Newman like, "Look, we're at a stalemate right now because everyone here knows that you're like a killer, and they know that you're a soup. So if you kill everyone here, like news is gonna get out. They probably have like contingency plans to expose her, so her career is gonna be finished, and she's gonna be the villain for the rest of her life. At the same time, she knows she knows more about the virus, the anti-soup virus. So they need her, she needs them. And she keeps mentioning something about this man named Samir. This is the first time as viewers we've heard of that name, I think. Is that right, Damon?
Yeah, I don't think we've heard this name before, but it comes up a lot in this episode for good reason.
Right. So Newman's like, this man named Samir who is involved in the research. He's gone. She doesn't know where he is, and she thinks that like the boys have kidnapped him, and they don't know anything about him. So it looks like a fight's about to break out, and then that's basically when Stan knows about Samir, so he knows who he is. So he's not rattled when Newman drops the name. And he's just like, let's go find Samir together. Let's all work together. There's nothing else we can do. It's basically just like we both have guns pointed at each other. literally and figuratively. It's mutually assured destruction. This is kind of what I'm hoping is going to prevent World War III in the real world, Damon, us versus Russia. I just hope that it doesn't go down. But let me take a break right there.
You never know. Um, Looking back at the V52 Expo, God's Soldier, the movie they preview from Firecracker, that title is a little concerning, especially given what she's pushing against Starlight. You talked about Sage definitely being on to A Train, and the comments we got on that too. Definitely, she knows it was him. The ran away itself line is hard to ignore. The question is, why doesn't she want to keep? Why doesn't she want to pull the trigger? Because as soon as she tells Homelander what's what, Homelander's going to break his neck. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So is she waiting for hard proof, or does she have use for A Train further down the road in her schemes? Remember when she like told Homelander like, "Oh yeah, you're going to be viewed like Caesar. That's how you want to govern." Well, I mean, we know what happened to Caesar, right? So there is a chance that Sage has a contingency plan waiting to use it like an escape hatch or to kind of usurp Homelander when the time comes. So you never know if she's really trying to play with him the whole time. We're probably over a season away from that if she even makes it out of this season, but that's just something to keep in the back of your head.
Yep.
Visiting Edgar, the Edgar reveal was nicely done. He's way too good of a villain to have him sideline in the clink for a while, so it's good to get him back out. Butcher was a demon at pushing the offer. He's a little too good at identifying what people want the most now. He turns a little villainous here. Huey's dad at the hospital. Huey's dad is the perfect mark. Like he's the guy who like fell for all the mail order schemes and like all the infomercials back in the day, talking about Da Vinci Code tours. Like, goddamn, man, there's way better reasons to go to Paris than that. But the explanation of Huey holding on tight checked out. That's pretty much who he's always been in the show. Investigating with Edgar at the farm compound here. It's an unlikely team up. Newman back in the fold here complicates the hell out of this because now we're going to have to unpack the whole Edgar Newman dynamic because she did betray him the last time that they were talking.
Yeah. She betrayed him, but he taught her, and she's still like she's still like the daughter figure to him, right? Okay, perfect. Damon, is that anything else to say?
Nope, that's about it.
All right, perfect. Dude, Stan Edgar fucking just is so fucking sick. I wish I had better descriptions for him, but I'm not a very.
I mean, he's got the Breaking Bad Better Call Saul thing that he holds on to, where his gaze is just absolutely piercing. Not in like a way that's like captivating, but in a way that just stops you in your tracks, and you know you're not going to be able to get bullshit over on this guy.
Yeah, and on top of that, do you remember like was it season 3 where they had the flashback to Edgar and they had like the young Stan Edgar playing him?
Yes,
that
yes,
actor
with Black
fucking,
Noir.
Yeah, that actor fucking killed it too. Captured his mannerisms perfectly. All right, so we see a quick little B-roll cut about A Train's new movie where Will Ferrell's in it. For this generation, the younger generation, they have no idea how much of a savage Will Ferrell was in the early 2000s with his comedies. Go watch Will Ferrell's shit. My favorite Will Ferrell, I don't know if it's between Anchorman, maybe Old School. I don't know. Blades of Glory was fire too.
Semi-pro Ricky Bobby.
Yeah, dude. I all right. I still have not watched Talladega Nights.
What?
Yeah, I gotta go fucking watch it, dude. It's I'm ashamed. All right, so we see the cut for A Train's movie with Will Ferrell. It's some typical Coach Carter type of shit. And then this is so funny. I think it's like Training A Train. Yeah. So then, this is still the Vought Expo. V52 is still going on. A Train says some things to the Vought fans, and then all right. So this is where the Deep and Coleman, the Vought fucking reporter, talk a little bit more. I kind of jumped the gun, but basically this is when they actually have the conversation where Coleman's like, "Why are you mad at me?" And the Deep's just like, "Yeah, you fucking you broadcasted all my like me getting fired." And Coleman, in fairness to Coleman, Coleman's like, "Dude, I have to at least broadcast some negative news about Vought, or else I got to be a little bit objective." Quick comment, classic COD, watch it, you have to. Yeah, no, I gotta watch Talladega Nights, man. I gotta say, when I lived with Damon and our other boy Flex, they put me onto a lot of movies that I fucking did not watch because I was watching different types of movies.
It's
So
true.
I'm catching up on a lot of these classics. My favorite comedy is still might be Grandma's Boy, but let's keep going. So basically, the Deep is mad at Coleman, and Coleman's just like, fuck off. Coleman's got a lot of power for some reason. He's got a lot of arrogance. But anyways, V52 is still going on. Then they have this really, really racist fucking scene where they're like, yeah, we're starting to have like targeted ads towards race. So if you're white, you're going to get a certain ad. And if you're black, you're going to get a different ad. It's just absolutely insane. Pretty hilarious, but like such a good parody on what's actually going on in real life.
Did you know that there's a rumor that Amazon was going to start trying that, and the boys guys like got wind of it or were told about it, and they just decided to make fun of it instead?
Dude, I have no doubt that that's going on at companies. No doubt. Like they might not characterize it as like, oh, for our like black demographic, but they'll say like urban demographic, or they'll say,
Yeah, coded stuff.
our middle, like when it's white, it's mid America, right? Middle America. That's how you code it. You code white by saying middle America. You code black by saying urban. And I don't know what you say for Asian yet. Overseas, I'm not too sure what they say for my people, but yeah, they definitely are already doing this shit right now. Then we get a quick scene with Ryan, and this dude's name is Adam. He's like one of the creative directors or whatever, and Adam's basically pitching some stuff to Ryan. He's also exploiting a power dynamic with this younger PA named Bonnie, and clearly just being like real creepy and sexually aggressive. And Homelander's in this new place of like very terrifying zen, where all he really cares about is just he doesn't care anymore about popularity. He's just kind of like, Ryan, just do whatever the fuck you want. So when Ryan doesn't want to do this show, Homelander's like, then don't do it. Whereas in the past, Homelander still would have pushed for Ryan to do it because he still cared about popularity. He's undergoing a more devastating transition. So they're walking, and Homelander's just like, yeah, you don't have to worry about anything. Like, do whatever the fuck you want. That's basically the message. And Ryan's like, cool. Then we cut back to the compound where they're kind of searching for Samir and trying to see what's going on. And turns out that Edgar wasn't really aware of what Newman was doing at his farm. So Newman kind of went off on her own to turn this farm into her own place for research into the virus, basically. And Newman is mad at Edgar for putting her and Zoe in danger. Edgar's like, why the fuck would you inject your daughter with Compound V? So they're having a little argument. And then MM is telling Butcher, what's your plan for when this truce is over? Because Newman is going to kill us. And Butcher's like, I'm going to have Starlight blind her because Newman's powers come from her eyes. And then we'll kill her. So it's a very flimsy alliance. This gets crazy. They go into this farmhouse and they basically find that the animals that they were testing Compound V on are now souped up as fuck. So this chicken is just on the loose. It's a super chicken basically. And it's flying through people. It's killed a few other like henchmen, and now it's very scary. So the theory is that their buddy Samir or Newman's associate Samir was basically putting Compound V or injecting Compound V into all these animals, and then they're all get pissed off at fucking Newman. But then Newman also comes back and says, "Hey, by the way, did you guys know that Butcher was gonna sell you guys out and basically give up everything that you had, all of the files on me from Red River in exchange for me to bring them to Ryan." So then obviously whatever shred of trust that Butcher had with the boys, they're like, well, fuck off. This guy's the same guy. And in fairness to Butcher, he says, I didn't actually do it. So, he's got a point. He didn't actually go through with it. He came close, but he didn't actually go through with it. And then I'll finish with this quick little scene here. Coleman now is no longer attracted to Ashley because Ashley has basically been demoted. And Coleman has a dom sub fetish. He likes to be dominated. And since Ashley isn't the CEO of Vought anymore, or she's just a figurehead and she's not really calling the shots, Coleman's not into it anymore. So he breaks up with her, which is going to prove to be very important for this episode because he now makes an enemy of Ashley, which you don't want to do. And then we also get this little quick scene between the Sage and Firecracker where Firecracker's like, you think I'm like poor white trash? And Sage is like, I don't think you're poor, which is pretty funny. But Firecracker is basically like, I'm gonna fucking get you back. You set me up to get the shit kicked out of me by Starlight, and so lots of tension going on. Let's take a pause there.
Yeah, we will just to pick back up on the Homelander and Ryan scene. Homelander shows some improved self awareness. It's pretty funny when he's talking to Ryan about how his mindset's changed. He's like, I've been doing a lot of reflecting. And we saw what he did last episode, and reflecting is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that phrase here. Cringeworthy phrasing aside, when he's like, yeah, we're both emancipated from slavery now. It's like, maybe not, dude. This is one of the healthier mindsets Homelander has adopted towards Ryan. And I think we see the closest thing to a connection between these two since the season kicked off. Because really, Ryan needs a lot of things, but what he needs the most from Homelander is just for him to chill the hell out so he can relax a little bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is doing it for that one. Um, you did we go over oh, we didn't do that yet. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Back to the farm. Classic moment where Butcher gets railroaded when a morally ambiguous character with a dark side makes a bad decision, then takes it back, but they still get in trouble for it and get shit for it. Take another shot because Butcher is now on the outs with the group again, but refill that glass because they might be cool with him in another episode. You know how it is with these guys.
Mm.
Um,
I am taking
with
a
the
shot.
hell yeah, man, following the rules. With Firecracker and Sage, this is good because at this point, the boys need all the wins they can get, and underlying tension and backstabbing within the seven that can be exploited is as good as they can get at this point. The I don't think you're poor line, like you said, was just hilarious. Now that these two are going to be at odds with each other, we could potentially see some exploitation, and we actually have a window into some vulnerabilities here because right now it seems like the boys are down by at least I don't know. What do you say? They're down by at least 2 touchdowns to the seven right now.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns, easy. It's and we're midway through the third.
Yeah,
All right, nice,
that's all I
nice.
got.
Cool, cool. All right, so we'll keep it moving from there. Back to the farm. Frenchie at this point, I'm getting so sick of Frenchie's character this season. I it's he's just not compelling to me. But he's obviously guilty from murdering so many people. Um, and then MM is like, is Frenchie all good? And Kimiko's, I don't really know what's up with this guy. And uh, Kimiko seems okay. MM is a good leader, man. He really is. But Butcher's kind of walking alone. They've kind of all neglected him. And Starlight ends up, or Newman ends up talking to Starlight. And is basically just like, you're just like me, you know? Like, you're just like me. You got that angry soup side of you. Stop trying to hide it. And that gets Starlight to react and punch Newman right in the face, which basically proves Newman's point. And let me see. Let me actually jump to that scene. Dual identities, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so Starlight reacts emotionally by punching Newman in the face, and Newman kind of just does the. If you're watching House of the Dragons, she kind of does the Kristen Cole thing where she laughs because she knows that she got under Starlight's skin, and she knows that Starlight doesn't have it all together mentally right now. Like she's easily rattled. So that little skirmish happens. Nothing big. Newman doesn't pop Starlight's head off yet because she still needs her, but she easily could have. Newman is so scary, man. She's so fucking scary. But she gets up and she's really just like, yeah, like you really got shit locked down. Um, let's keep it going. This scene was interesting. So I am actually going to pause on this scene because I want to know your take on it. So as they're walking, they're all walking ahead of Butcher, right? So Butcher's kind of walking solo. And he notices this like rabbit that's clearly been injected with Compound V, just dead, but then tentacles sprout out. And they're the similar tentacles to what Zoe had. And Butcher, at first I thought Butcher like wouldn't have been able to kill the rabbit. But remember, Butcher has Compound V in his system or whatever, that Temp V. And so he's still got some powers. You can't really control them necessarily, but he ends up like stomping on this rabbit and killing it. I didn't think he was going to be able to kill it at first because the rabbit is kind of souped up. But what did you make of that? Like the tentacles and all of that. I didn't know what to make of all of that.
I think this could be our clue as to what Butcher has going on himself, right? We know he killed Ezekiel somehow. We had a comment come in about how he might kill Homelander somehow as well. I think that the rabbit being dead too tells us that the compound V didn't take correctly, right? These were being experimented on. If you notice, he takes it was like 20 minutes ago, but he takes the tube out of the rabbit when they first get down there and like sets it free as like he's like seeing a little bit of himself in that rabbit. So I think he sees a little bit of himself in this one too. Is it the same rabbit? Might be.
Could be.
But I think he sees a little bit of himself in that. And like, is this what's growing inside me? Am I a monster like this? And keep in mind, Butcher has intense hatred towards Soups.
Right.
So when he sees himself, like, if he sees himself as anything resembling a Soup, like there's some self-hatred in there too. And we know Butcher does hate himself based on the stuff he's talked about earlier with his dad, his relationship with Ryan, everything like Becca. The image, the hallucination of Becca is the only thing keeping him tethered to this world in a good way. So I think that this symbolizes like, this could be me, or this might be how I end up.
Yep. All right, let's keep it moving. Back to V52, the convention for Vought. This time, Ashley and A-Train kind of have their conversation, and A-Train just tells Ashley straight up, like, hey, the leak was me. It wasn't Annika who Homelander lasered, I think, last episode or something like that. And Ashley's like, I'm about to go snitch. And then A-Train's like, nope, we already talked. We're in a deal. If I go down, you go down. Even though all you did was take a shit in Homelander's toilet, like, you're cooked if you take me down. So A-Train basically forces Ashley to work with him. And then we get Tech Knight, who we were introduced to in Gen V. And he's basically saying, hey, I'm making another movie again. Here's where things fucking heat up on Huey's end. Huey comes back to the room in the hospital. His dad is gone. Daphne, his mom, is like, I thought he was with you. And it's now a disaster scenario because they go and they find Huey's dad. He's not really like himself, and he has murdered someone. I think he murdered like another patient, and he's just holding the patient's fucking, it's either a patient or a fucking nurse or something like that, but he's holding the patient's heart in his hand, and he doesn't even know what the fuck he just did. And when Huey tries to like calm him down, he runs through a wall. So that's I guess that's his power that he got from Compound V. He's able to just like phase through things, phase through matter. And we get the scene where this other patient is kind of flirting with a nurse. Like, feel like she's about to let him take her out for dinner, man. I feel like she's about to let him take him out for dinner, and it doesn't matter because Huey's dad panic runs and phases right into the middle of the patient's like guts and just fucking kills him, and there's organs everywhere. The Boys, man, just classic. Never eat food while watching The Boys. Hospital goes into code red. Everyone's panicking, and Huey's dad is just on the loose, and he's not himself. And they finally catch him in the hole, and now he's starting to get angry. And he doesn't even recognize Huey at times. At other times, he thinks Huey's 11. Like, he's just straight up fucking losing his mind. And then he notices Daphne, and he starts getting angry at Daphne and being like, you fucking left me. So he's starting to get violent towards her. A security guard tries to come over, and I think he just fucking rips the dude's fucking guts out and kills him. Let's take a little break here.
To the V52 little session we had there, it is time for Ashley to play ball because that's the only way that they're going to be able to get out of this unscathed is if they have strength in numbers. Second of all, on like a more humorous note, like, how the hell is Tech Knight getting this many movies? Like, he's not even really a good superhero.
I know, he sucks.
Like they got him in like 7 or 8. Like it's like they're acting like he's like Spider-Man up there or some shit. Like, no, I don't think so. Back at the hospital, he did have a stroke, right? That was the official diagnosis.
Yes.
So the stroke probably damaged his memory and his cognitive function a little bit. It's like you're still impacted by the disease, even if you had the compound V simultaneously. The damage has already been done from that. So not everybody gets that same healing factor that we're familiar with. So he's still dealing with some stuff. And this is going to be dangerous as hell because the old grief and anger resurfacing, it never got out. Like when he saw Huey's mom again, when his dad saw his mom again, he was happy. It's like he totally glossed over what she did to them. So this was going to resurface at some point.
Yep. All right. So now we cut back to V52, and this is when the Deep he kind of claps back at at Coleman, and it's just like, I'm gonna bang your wife, and Coleman's just like, that's like that's his counter. He's
Dude,
just like, I'm gonna bang your wife.
dude, he is so Sean William Scott coded. It's not even funny.
Yeah, and Coleman's just like, dude, I know you're banging an octopus, and I have all that dirt. I'm just gonna like release all that footage or like release all that evidence. So there's nothing you can do. So it looks to be a stalemate because the Deep's like, fuck, I can't have that come out. And then, hey, we get our first look into Gen V, right? Like we got our first look into the actual characters, and we
Yeah.
see Sam and Kate on there, and Sam looks like he's drugged up, but they're announcing their new movie. These two are now considered the Guardians of Godolkin, a superhero group within Vought, and they're premiering a movie called Flipped, or they're announcing a movie that's going to come out called Flipped. And now Homelander and Ryan are starting to get buddy buddy. They have milkshakes, and Homelander's like, "What do you want in life?" Which is crazy because Ryan's like fucking what 13 or some shit. So Ryan actually says, "Big picture, I want to help people. I want to do real saves, not setup saves." And Homelander's like, "Okay, great." And then they all know what's going on. Which this is the funny part. Homelander's so aware of everything that's going on, and he just doesn't care unless he needs to use it for some agenda. So he's aware that Adam has been harassing. I think her name is fucking. I forget her name. The PA, but Homelander's like, all right, let's go save her. So they bring him over, and hey, what did he say? He said, he's like, hey, he basically asked the PA, like, hey, is Adam making you uncomfortable? And she's like, yeah, kind of. So then Homelander tells Ryan, hey, why don't you take care of this? So at first Ryan's like, apologize. And this guy's such a scumbag that he doesn't even give a real apology. He kind of just gives a half-hearted apology. He gives one of those like, hey, I'm sorry that you got offended type of things. And obviously that's not going to work because both Ryan and Homelander can hear your heartbeat and all that stuff. They have like super sense, so they can tell when you're, what your emotions are essentially. So then Ryan starts going power trip mode. I thought they were going to kill Adam at this point, but they don't. And Ryan goes power trip mode. He's like, get on your knees and apologize to her. So he gets on his knees and apologizes to her. And then they still don't buy it. And they just basically, Bonnie's her name. So they tell Bonnie, hey, why don't you just fucking beat his ass? And she happily beats the fuck out of Adam. And this is the beginning of Ryan converting to the dark side of vengeance, right? Isn't that what Star Wars is all about? The Sith, vengeance.
Dude, he's giving big Anakin vibes at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he is Anakin. Back at the farm compound, they're still trekking, kind of searching for Samir. This compound is absolutely massive. Stan's kind of getting tired because he's an older guy. And let's see, I skip through these Frenchie scenes because they're so boring. But Frenchie is ready to sacrifice himself. He can't live with his guilt anymore. He's got other things on his mind. He needs salvation. He needs penance, and basically that's what he talks to Starlight about. Meanwhile, they see another beat up animal, and it's a fucking bull. Now that is very terrifying. So the bull looks beat up, but before they can even engage with the bull, these beat up sheep start flying in and tear the bull apart. And the sheep can fly. They have super strength, all that stuff. So now they're running for their lives. Some woman gets torn apart. Basically supporting cast character gets torn apart. Now they all sprint and they go into this little farmhouse to hide, and they can't come out because the sheep are just literally flying outside, circling them. And in the farmhouse is where they find Samir. So this is our first look at Samir, and right away from the hug, we now learn that Samir and Newman actually are romantically involved. And it turns out that Samir is Zoe's father, and Stan knew about this. And once he found out that Samir had hooked up with Newman, Stan fired him. He used to work at Vought, and basically Newman kept Samir on the payroll, or like had him working on this on like her side projects and stuff like that. But Samir says like they have one more dose of the antidote, basically, or the virus to kill the soups. So this is a big realization. Let's keep going. So Edgar's pissed. Edgar was like basically like, yeah, you fucked my daughter, like fuck you. Turns out what actually happened and how this whole science experiment went wrong is that they they injected a hamster with Compound V, and then things just went really poorly when the hamster basically escaped, and then like everything else just went to shit. So everyone else there is pretty much fucking dead. Samir's like one of the few that are left. All of the other doses of the virus are fucking gone. He has one more dose left, and they got to use this the right way, right? So they come up with a plan, and I think the first plan they come up with, or actually we learn a little bit more about the virus. So the virus isn't transmissible from the air. It's only transmissible from blood, saliva, and semen. Frenchie is a fucking idiot, so he says something about fucking one of the sheep, and they're all just like, dude, you're so dumb. But basically, the idea is like maybe they could inject the virus into one of the dead workers, and then throw the body out, have the sheep eat the body, and then the virus would spread to them, and then all of the sheep would die. The problem with that plan is that even though it would save them, they would no longer have any more of the virus left. So it's really just like what they want to do, if they can find a way to get out of this without using the virus. But ultimately, there's nothing else they can do but to actually use it. So Butcher's like, look, let's just use the virus. Anyways, so I think this is where they determine that they're actually going to use the virus, right, and try to get out of there. Let's just keep going. They're just arguing, blah 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 blah. Let's keep going. All right. Yeah, they're just talking about all this shit basically. It's just like all their baggage that's coming out. Where Butcher's on a death mission, and then MM's just like, dude, I still want to take care of my daughter, so fuck out of here, And then so they do end up injecting the virus into, was it the dead body that they injected in?
Yep.
Okay. This scene got a little bit confusing because then you'll see like towards the end it kind of gets interesting, and I'll have to ask you about this. We cut to the hospital where Huey's dad is still on the loose, and he's calm, and he ends up cooking up a cocktail for like euthanization, and his dad finds them, and his dad is about to basically kill Huey's mom, and then Huey steps in and basically brings up a story of when he was younger, and he tells his dad like he's been his hero the entire time. It was never like the Vought superheroes back when he was younger that his dad thought he looked up to. It wasn't them. You were always my hero, Dad. It's a very nice moment, and it gets through to Huey's souped up dad, and he recognizes Huey, and he calms down. He's just like, I don't know what's going on, and Huey's like, okay, we'll take care of it, and that's that. So let me take a pause here before we get to the final scenes.
Yeah, we'll finish off the hospital scene. This storyline, the Huey and his dad and his mom, grew on me. It took a little while.
Yeah.
First couple episodes, it was like, or first episode, I was like, I'm not really so sure this is like super like engrossing to me. But Simon Pegg turned it on the second that he woke up. He really delivers on the emotional sense. It's as believable as you can get for a show with flying sheep and superpowers.
Yeah.
Like I bought into it. Like kudos to them for turning it around. I was too quick to judge this one. They paid it off pretty well. I like the sequence to it. It was a terrible idea from the jump, so I'm glad they were able to figure out a way to kind of turn it around. We'll see if they actually figure it out. To the V52 one, the Guardians of Godolkin, just real quick, Kate is eating this up. That's to be expected based on how we saw her acting at the end of Gen V. If you haven't seen Gen V yet, you really should give it a watch just so you get an idea of who Kate and Sam are as characters, because they're definitely going to come into play here. It is tough to see Homelander rubbing off on Ryan. Think of all the scenes where Homelander orders people around or tries to expose them publicly. Like, think of him making Ashley take off her wig last season. This is what I'm getting from Ryan now, is he's like, yeah, hit him. And then he's just sipping his little drink, his little milkshake, watching with a smile on his face. That's really concerning because we know Ryan's got an incredible power scale in the boys universe. So if he was going to defect and become fully Homelander adjacent, like, that's a bad sign for everybody else. He started out like a solid kid, but losing his mom, like losing Becca so early, was only going to create consequences down the line. And Homelander is, he's now in a position right now where he doesn't give a shit. So Ryan is probably, Butcher's running out of chances with Ryan. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Back at the farm, the Frenchie thing, he's in a tailspin. Kimiko is in less of a tailspin, but they're both in the same area. Him being scared that Kimiko won't hate him after he admits what he did. I'm kind of with you on this. Like the Frenchie and Colin stuff, it was like, oh, I understand like why you're feeling this way. Like you're at a big point in your life. You killed the guy's family, so like you're like trying to balance all these feelings out and figure out where your head's at. But then just to launch into like the Catholic thing with Starlight, like it felt like, that scene kind of dragged just a little bit. Zoe's dad's reveal as Samir is crucial. But that's all I've got so far for this.
All right, so we basically run two final seasons currently to end the episode. Where first we get to the farm, and they end up injecting the dead body with V. You're gonna have to explain this to me because it gets confusing at the end. But they throw it out as bait, and the sheep end up eating it, and one by one they start getting the same tumors that we saw in Gen V when soups were infected with this virus, and they start like throwing up and dying. They throw up the V and then they die. So they all drop dead, and now it seems like everything is all well, right? So everyone's like, okay, we're good, but then they can't find Samir. So Samir's gone, and Newman is devastated because she's in love with him. And then it turns out that they renege on the deal with Edgar because the deal was, we'll give you a pardon and get you out of jail if you get us of the virus. But because they used their last dose of the virus to get out of that situation, there's no deal. So Edgar gets sent back to jail. He gets in the car, and then there's like this cleanup crew, FBSA. I don't know do you know what the FBSA stands for?
Federal Bureau of Safety Superhero Affairs.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that sounds pretty right. That's like a nice like best guess on the multiple choice type of thing. You eliminate one of the wrong answers, and then you go for it. But basically, all they can find, this one woman comes up and is like, yeah, we can't find Samir, Dr. Shah, but they did find a leg. They found his leg. So Newman's like, fuck. She kind of knows what's going on. Everyone is heading out, and Newman ends up actually intercepting Edgar's vehicle, and she kills the driver, and she's the one who comes in, and she takes Edgar for herself. So we'll see what she ends up doing with Stan and what her plans are for him. Back at Vought, Homelander's kind of giving a speech, and he's telling everyone in the Seven, hey, we're no longer going to be celebrities down the line. We're going to be gods. We're going to be vengeful gods. We're going to be dishing out punishment and and basically being the ones who create the rules, uphold the rules, stuff like that. So he's already on his mission. It's very clear what he wants to do. At the same time, he brings in Colin. So he thinks that, not Colin, sorry, Coleman. He brings in Coleman, and he believes that Coleman is the leak. So they bring in Coleman. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so they bring in Coleman, and the Deep is more than happy to bring in Coleman. So basically what happened is that Ashley and A-Train conspired together, and they planted a bunch of information on Coleman's phone to make it look like he was the one who ended up leaking all the information about the stuff that happened in episode 1, where they set up when they set up all those guys to get killed and made it look like it was the Starlighters who did it. Turns out, obviously, it's not Coleman, but they plant the information on him, and they gag Coleman, and the Deep is more than happy to eliminate Coleman. So basically, all of the soups take turns beating Coleman to death, and now A-Train has killed two birds with one stone. He's gotten the scent off of him from Homelander, and Ashley is also in the clear. Obviously, Coleman should have never broken up with her. Would she have done it anyways? Maybe, but she was more than happy to do it once Coleman broke up with her. Now, Sister Sage obviously knows that this is bullshit, and she knows that it's still A-Train, but for the time being, it looks like A-Train is safe for now. And then we cut to, Starlight and the boys. They're kind of all at HQ, kind of just like figuring things out, just kind of digesting everything. And then, Frenchie turns himself into the police for the murder of Colin's family and all the murders that he has done in the past. Chemical's doing some origami. And then we get to the hospital where it turns out that Huey's dad, and Huey's mom, the thing that they're all agreeing upon is that they're gonna euthanize his dad. It makes the most sense because his dad, is still not fully healthy. He's killed a bunch of people, so he's either gonna be in jail or in an asylum forever, or he's gonna be on the loose, probably murdering more innocents. And ultimately, his dad, at the end of the day, said, "Hey, I don't want to die like our cat Jar Jar, so killing me is the best way." So it's a very emotional moment when they have to euthanize him, and it's tough. But props to Huey for making a very, very adult and difficult choice. Good character development. And then we end the episode. This is the part you're going to have to explain to me, Damon. We end the episode with fucking Kessler and Butcher having a sketching meeting under the bridge. And it turns out they have Samir, and they chopped off both of this motherfucker's legs, and they injected him with the virus. So they chopped off his leg and then used his leg to basically infect all of the souped up animals to kill them. But Samir is still alive, and they're keeping him alive because he has the virus coursing through him. So they're basically going to breed Samir to create more, more copies of the virus, or more supply of the virus. But I guess this is where I want to hear your thoughts on the final few scenes. I want to hear your your Butcher theory that we teased at the beginning of the stream. And what the fuck, when the fuck did they dose up Samir? Because I thought they dosed up the dead body.
They did dose up a dead body. What they did was Butcher cut off Samir's leg and planted it to make it look like Samir had been killed.
Okay.
So now they're going to keep Samir to make the virus for them.
Oh, because Samir knows how to make the virus. Okay, so it's not that Samir. All right, so ignore everything I just said about Samir having the virus coursing through him. That's not true.
Yeah. So the last few scenes, I just have like one bullet point for each of them.
Yeah. Talk us through, because I was just wrong.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll get to it. The Homelander monologue. Wrathful gods, that's a bad sign. Sam and Kate are so beyond cooked mentally, like deep fried, if you will, that they're going to go along with this, and they're going to be happy to do it, especially if you see how they close out Gen V. A-Train is screwed because even though the Deep and Ashley save his ass with the Coleman betrayal, goddamn, that was pretty cool, honestly. I didn't like that guy. Still think A-Train's got to watch his back because his face is telling too much. Yeah. He's not zealous like the other guys are when they're teaming up on Coleman. And I think Homelander casts a look at him too. So he's on red alert. Kimiko and Frenchie. Kimiko's honestly in a better place than she was before. Frenchie can't hold it in. So he turns himself in. My worry here is that the police identify Frenchie as a member of the boys from the past, or that word gets to Vought that a member of the boys has turned himself in for murders, and they try and make the boys seem like a terrorist group and force them underground again away from the CIA's help. That's my biggest fear, because I think that they're going to use that and then exaggerate. The hospital wrap, emotional send-off for Huey's dad. It was how it had to be. Well done by all three actors, and their performances saved a shakier storyline for sure, but they stuck the landing, absolutely. Butcher and Kessler. Holy shit, Butcher. I didn't know you were this far gone mentally. Like, he is an evil dude by the end of this episode. In the title, Beware the Jabberwock, you have Homelander escalating his own stuff, Butcher escalating his own stuff. But then we have this sort of wild card here. Kessler and Butcher. Here are some things you need to know about Kessler. Kessler is wearing the same outfit in almost every single appearance this season, maybe every appearance. He always seems to confirm Butcher's most brutal or most severe thoughts on how to get things done. No other characters have actually met and acknowledged Kessler and Butcher in the same room. It's only Butcher meeting him at the same time. When I was a kid, I watched a movie called A Beautiful Mind. I don't know if anybody else has seen this movie. It's a pretty solid one based on a nice book featuring Russell Crowe when he was at his peak. Basically, the context is that the main character, played by Russell Crowe, had this guy that only he could see because he was imagining him. He was a figment of his schizophrenia that he had. So it was like that. I think Kessler is Butcher. I think Kessler is a figment of his imagination in the same way that Becca is a figment of his imagination. Think of the mirror that Homelander broke in episode 2, maybe episode 3. But he saw the fractured mirror in episode 3, and it was like he had his angel side and his devil side, like trying to calm him down or fire him up. Think of that with Butcher, with Becca being like the angel, Kessler being the devil. Kessler talks like Butcher minus the accent. He has info on the team that he wouldn't know unless Butcher had told him firsthand. Like all that stuff about Frenchie, Frenchie just relapsed like 2 episodes ago. So for Kessler to know all this stuff would be kind of crazy unless Butcher had already told him about it.
And the
The
claim is that
convo,
he's CIA, right? So it's like, oh, I know everything because I'm CIA. But like you said, it's too convenient. It's too fast.
incredibly convenient and fast. And the convo reads more like a guy tossing ideas over in his head than it does having a conversation with anybody else, right?
Mm.
So to me, and if you look at Samir's eyes, Samir looks up, doesn't acknowledge Kessler, and really just has a look on his face like, holy shit, this Butcher guy is crazy. They do need the virus, so you can't fault Butcher for going through this. The only problem is going to be disseminating it in a targeted way to make sure it doesn't mutate and become more easily transmissible. But I'm pretty sure Butcher is at the end of his rope in terms of his sanity, and that Kessler is just a manifestation of his more dark impulses, if you will. Because Butcher becomes much more, I wouldn't say evil, but darker throughout this episode in the way he talks and speaks and treats people. There's not a lot of sympathy left behind those eyes. He is also in deep shit if Newman realizes what he's done because Samir is the only person that she cares about aside from her daughter and Edgar.
That is a fantastic theory. I'd have to agree with it, man. That's a great theory. It makes a lot of sense because you're right. No one else has interacted with Kessler yet. He just came out of fucking nowhere, which is what I said in episode 1. I was like, where did this guy come from?
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. This John Hamm looking guy.
yeah, this John Hamm V2. All right, that does it for this episode. We'll be back with episode 6 when it drops. We're gonna be doing House of the Dragon episode 3 as well. That's dropping tonight at 9. We'll try to cook up that video sometime this week. But Damon, any final thoughts on this episode before we sign off?
We have a virus that's going to be in production shortly here, and Homelander is ready to declare war soon. I know we get one more episode of Kate and Sam, and I think it's towards the end. So look for the next episode. I don't think next episode is going to be a big action episode. This episode was, so I'm thinking they just keep on building up and they save us with a couple of bangers to round the season out.
Sweet, sweet. All right, cool. Appreciate everyone for watching. Appreciate everyone for commenting. Classic COD. Shout out to you. And we will be back. Catch y'all later.